Hello, everyone. It's Fred again from Notes of a Nomad. I'm excited to tell you about what I did last weekend. Went to the desert with my friend from Nepal, Ravi Bhattarai. Now, Ravi and I had met in 2019 at an Agra Speakers Convention in Lisbon, Portugal. And then 2 years ago, in 2023, he invited me to Nepal and organized my trip through Nepal for the 12 weeks. And then Ravi happened to be in California, and I was in California. So we met up this weekend and we went to the desert. I thought he would be interested in going something different that you wouldn't see probably anywhere else in the world. And fortunately, my daughter, a few years prior to COVID, had taken me on a road trip as well. So I took Ravi on a similar road trip. So what we did was um, let me show you the picture of Ravi and where we went on the map, etc. Now, this is Ravi and myself back in Kathmandu a couple years ago. We were wearing our Agra speakers hats because that's what you do when you're talking about Agra speakers throughout Nepal. Now, this weekend, Ravi flew in to the airport near us. I picked him up the following day. He had visited a friend in San Bernardino, which is close to Redlands, where my daughter lives. And we drove down south to the Salton Sea, visited a small sort of museum there, talking about what's happened to the Salton Sea. It's very interesting. And then went further south, went into the desert to Salvation Mountain. Now, Salvation Mountain is very interesting, unique. I'll show you some pictures of that. And then we went a little further into the desert to East Jesus, where there's lots of folk art. We came back to the main highway, and the little town there's one diner called the Buckshot Diner and Deli. And we had a meal there. Then we went back up north, and it had been suggested earlier that morning before I picked up Ravi, why don't you go to Joshua Tree National Park? So I put that in the GPS, and so I had to go. He was getting late, but we drove through Joshua Tree and then back to Redlands, getting home around 9:30 at night. So it was a long day, about 10 hours we were traveling and eating and having a good time and sharing. So let me show you a couple pictures. This is the Salton Sea behind us, and Ravi and I are wearing identical t-shirts. I'll explain that to you shortly when I show you another photo where you can see the t-shirts better. This was the museum where there was a video explaining what happened to the Salton Sea back in the 50s and 60s. It was a very popular recreational area, people on their boats and camping, etc. But now the Salton Sea is more salty than the ocean. I think twice as salty, and there's a lot of chemicals and runoffs from fertilizers. Fish can no longer live there. It's got algae in it, and sometimes it doesn't smell so nice, depending on the weather and what's going on with the climate. But it's still around and it's still run by the state park. And there's a very interesting museum explaining what's happened to the Salton Sea. We then went further south and went to Salvation Mountain. But have a look if you're interested. Google it, look at Wikipedia, and see all about Salvation Mountain. The man was very devoted to God and to Jesus, and he built this out of clay and hay and paint. Hundreds of gallons of paint, he built this. And you can climb up to the top here. Ravi helped me get up there. It was you have a little yellow brick road here, and you walk up and you can get to the top, and we'll show you what it looks like. So there's Ravi and I with our identical t-shirts. Now, back in 2023, I had got a t-shirt which was too small for me. So Ravi said, "Oh, I'll take the smaller t-shirt and you can have this shirt," which he had got from a visit in Europe, some of his computer conventions he'd been to. And he had an extra shirt. And I thought, oh, I'll put it on when I meet Ravi. And guess what? Ravi happened to be wearing the same shirt. This was not planned, but it was serendipity, I guess. So we climbed up. He helped me climb up, and this is at the top, Ravi taking some pictures of what it looks like when you're on top. And this is again some example of some of the things this man had built over many, many years. Quite an interesting exercise in the Bible and Jesus and God, etc. So it's unique, and that's all paint over clay. And this is another example of some of the things he has that he did create. He passed away about 11 years ago. Now, we went up the road a little bit further into the desert to East Jesus, where it's full of folk art. And communities of people come together on a regular basis and they do folk art from scrap vehicles and metal, etc. This particular bus is called what? It's about the sorry, I can't read it. Let me see if I can expand it a little bit. First Church of the Chocolate Martini. So that was that bus, and it's obviously very well decorated. And there is a wall of, I guess we'd say, television sets, and just talking about, how I don't know, Republicans are evil, you're not good, blah, 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 etc. Television will not be revolutionized or something, bye bye everything. So this was again a folk art wall. And about dolphins. Whose team are they on? Telling that dolphins have invented fast food to subtly kill poor people, etc. And what dolphins have done to Jesus, etc. I don't know, some weird things here. And artificial intelligence. I don't know if that's what it was, but it says AI on it. So, and of course, a plane was in folk art, and then a taxidermy dinner party looking inside a vehicle, and there's the taxidermy dinner party. So there's some strange art, and an alien, I guess, crashed here, and there's a picture of Ravi behind the alien who crashed into the desert. So these are some of the folk art. This is a Barbie car full of Barbie dolls all over it. And this was some another lookout at East Jesus. After that, we went into the town and we went to the diner, and it was fed American food and Mexican food. There's tortillas, you know, mentioned on the wall, and etc. Well, it was a very broad menu. I had a big burger, was delicious, and Ravi had an omelet with some chicken. It was the only place to eat in town. There's no fast food places, just this diner. But it had good referrals, so we thought we'd stop and eat there. From there, we drove north and we went to Joshua Tree National Park. It was getting late at night, so I got a couple pictures off of the internet just to show you what Joshua Tree Park looks like. These are the Joshua Tree plants, and the landscape is very interesting. It looks more like there's a lot of like boulders and so on. Looks like maybe the ocean bed from a long time ago. But if you're interested, look up Joshua Tree National Park. So it was getting late at night, the sun was going down, it was getting dark, and by the time we got home, it was dark. The next day, we went to two um, museums in San Bernardino. This is one of the original sites of original McDonald's, owned by the McDonald's brothers. And in there is a lot of artifacts. This museum is not run by the McDonald's company. It's run by another organization, which is a chicken restaurant selling chickens. And this man, who's now passed away, has created this enormous uh, collection of artifacts from all around the world, and different countries have donated all these artifacts with McDonald's items. And it's just overwhelming amount of McDonald's paraphernalia. And this is the man, Albert Okuru, who owns the restaurant. He's passed away now a few years ago, but he uh, organized, bought this property and made it into a museum. His restaurant name was Poco Loco, I believe. And he also had created another another museum right next door, and for the Army and Military Museum. And this fella, Mario, was the man who, for the last 20 years, has built up this museum for Albert, etc. Albert was his mentor, he said. He's 83 years old, been in the military, and there's a picture of him when he was younger. This is Mario Montesino. So there's a picture here of Mario in his youth when he was in the military. So there's a lot of artifacts in this museum full of uniforms and so on, some communication device, old switchboard, and of course a, a Jeep. So this, of course, we had to get Ravi in the Jeep with a helmet on before he took off for Dallas. So that was our interesting, fascinating trip during this past weekend on the Saturday and Sunday when Ravi was in the same place as me. It was wonderful to see him. It was very enjoyable. We had a great time. So that was the trip. We had in the desert to the Salton Sea, to East Jesus, the Salvation Mountain, and Joshua Tree National Park. So with that, I'll say adios, au revoir, wishing you, your family, and friends lots of love and laughter, and hope you have some great road trips in the coming year. So bye for now from Fred and Notes of a Nomad.